Hi guys, I'm with Ojhan and this is Josh. Josh, do you have a last name?
Hey Matt.
Amen. So Josh Amen. So Ojhan, you go to UC Berkeley and you just transferred from Folsom Lake College, and you're majoring in EECS, which is electrical engineering and computer science. And I'm also with Josh Emmett, who is a also a transfer student at UCLA, and he's majoring in computer science engineering. Could you guys introduce yourselves a bit? Ojhan, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Alex, for the introduction. Like you said, my name is Ojhan. I transferred from Folsom Lake College. I spent 2 years there, majoring in computer science, and now I'm transferring. I have transferred to UC Berkeley in the major of EECS. So I'm really excited to be here and answer some questions with you guys.
Hi, I'm Josh A. Matt, and I went to Folsom Lake College for 4 years, 2 years dual enrollment, and then 2 years as a graduate college as an actual college student. And I just recently transferred to UCLA for computer science. Um, yeah, it's been a great ride. FLC is a great school and really set me up well, so I'm thankful for that.
Okay, awesome. So, having transferred to UCLA and UC Berkeley, why did you choose your school, and like, what would you recommend to prospective students interested in your school?
Yeah, I'll go first. So after graduating high school, um, I didn't get into many of the colleges I applied to. And despite having an above 4.0 GPA and having like being involved in a lot of activities and extracurriculars, I applied in computer science, which was very competitive. And unfortunately, I didn't get like many of the options. But I applied to Berkeley as a high schooler. And that was my dream school. I visited a lot when I was in high school. I had a lot of friends that went there. And I also knew that, engineering was one of the best majors there, so that was also a factor. But when I didn't get in, I was really distraught, and I didn't really know where to go. So that's why I went to Folsom Lake College for 2 years, because I kind of thought of it as my second chance where I could apply to the schools I wanted to get into again. And after 2 years of working hard at Folsom Lake College, having a plan and sticking with it, I was finally able to apply to all the schools again and actually get into all of them. And I chose Berkeley because that was my top choice from when I applied as a high schooler.
Awesome, awesome. So, Josh, your turn.
Yeah, so I was homeschooled through all of K through 12, and so I applied to two schools, and I went 0 for 2, and so I ended up going to FLC. And for me, I wanted a school with an excellent computer science program, and it was between Berkeley and LA, and I really liked the location of LA a lot more, closer to SoCal beaches, and just active socially. So I felt like LA would be a better fit culture-wise for me.
Okay, got it. So, why would you major in computer science? Like, what drew you to the major?
For me, I started programming at 12, and so at first I actually hated it, and I just kind of did it because my friends were also um, nerdy gamers like myself, and so I guess, peer pressure in a way. And then after a while, I finally realized like I actually kind of have a knack for this. I kind of enjoy it, and then I got hired at HP as an intern for Aruba Networks, and that's when programming really started to click for me, and I realized that this could be a lifelong career for me. So computer science, I would say, um, I've kind of been moving in that direction since the age of 12, and finally I feel like I'm on a good path for it.
Awesome. So same question, Ojan.
Yeah, wow, Josh, I didn't know you're programming since you were 12.
Yeah, HP Code Wars.
That's crazy. Yeah, so although I was always like really big into computers, I never thought of it as like a major, something I wanted to do when I grew up. And it wasn't until my junior year in high school where I took AP Computer Science, and that was kind of like my first real exposure to programming in general. And I just really liked it. I loved doing all the projects, all the homework. It was a lot of fun. It felt kind of like puzzles, and then whenever you solved it, it would be really satisfying. And then my professor, who was teaching the class, she was really good, and she explained all the benefits of going to computer science, how it was a big demand for it. The salaries were really good, and it was just a great field to be in. It was a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of cool people, do a lot of cool things. So ever since then, I've been kind of focusing through computer science, and I've just loved it ever since. I'm really happy I did.
Awesome. So I often get told that computer science is like a language. So what I heard from you is like puzzles, logical puzzles, solving puzzles. So I really enjoy solving puzzles. I view like CS as like this big mishmash is like the things that you learn. So you learn loops, you learn like postcondition, precondition loops, you learn control structures, you learn logical flow, you know, like analysis. Then you get to like object-oriented programming paradigms, right? So you go from like functional programming to parallel programming. So it's just like different ways you can use what you know to solve like a puzzle and get a solution. So that's really cool. And it's also really creative, right? So oftentimes I hear like computer science is just like a language. It's more like a form of literacy, just like reading and writing is. And I think like especially because of COVID, um, it's definitely more important now than ever than people learn how to be tech savvy, how to engage online. This is how we present ourselves and interact on an online environment, right? So learning how to code and learning how to create things often is like a great way to keep us productive and even sane, even going through these dark times, right? Because like I don't know about you, but like keeping track with my programs, like making meaningful things and making people like even happy because they see something really cool and exciting from what you've built is like really cool. Is there any a time that you've had like a wow moment that you've shown someone your code and they're like, oh wow, that's really cool? Sorry, I know that was a
Uh,
lot.
yeah, yeah, no worries. Yeah, I can go first. So I've had a couple of internships at Intel Corporation, one in 2019 and one this past summer, 2020. And I think doing work there is probably the coolest stuff I've done. And although I can't really go too deep into it, I would tell people kind of just like a general idea of what I would do, and they would always find it really interesting because you don't really know how these big companies run or like what their infrastructure is like until you've actually like experienced it or seen it yourself. So it's really cool to kind of just see how the inner workings of this big infrastructure is like, and then share like a generalized idea of how that works to people who otherwise would have no idea how it works. So I always thought that was pretty cool.
Definitely, definitely. Like before I got an internship at Intel as a mentee, like I didn't know how like the corporate world really worked. I didn't really know that these opportunities were available for community college students or that these companies would want community college students. And getting that opportunity and getting that mentorship from an engineer that was like there personally to like engage with me like constantly was like really beneficial. It was really motivating. I think like having those opportunities exist for us is like a big privilege. um, so having like done industry and having understood the inner workings of like industry, how has that helped you?
Josh, you want to tackle this one?
Yeah, so for me, when I got into my internship, I was 17, and I think the biggest project that I had worked on was for CISP 400, which is object-oriented programming, and I wrote an evolution simulator which would generate random genes for robots, and then they would reproduce, and you would see them run through a map. It would log it all, and you would actually simulate evolution based off genetics that determine behavior. And so going into my internship, I had no idea what I was doing, just how as Ojhan said, how vast the infrastructure is, how much there is to learn, how even after 15, 20 years of working at a company, you still don't know half of what there is to know about all the infrastructure. So I would say it kind of opened my eyes to how vast everything was. And it also taught me how to truly solve a problem, because previously I would go into some programming challenges with a defeatist mentality. I would say, well, I mean, that's a huge project that's going to take me 40 hours of work to do. Like, that's huge. But when it's actually your job, you're like, oh, 40 hours? That's a reasonable project to do. Sometimes you work on things that take 3 weeks and or thousands of lines of code in a project with hundreds of thousands of lines. So just getting that experience, I think, really helped me out, and yeah, opened up a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. I was actually in the same class as you with Professor Fowler, right? You did like the genetic algorithm experiment where you had like different robots with like different positional genes. So like you would have like what I do is I assign like a probability matrix to assign like a preference. So based on like a gene they had, they would prefer to go north or south. And then you would randomly generate like a 10 by 10 array and populate it with like batteries, right? So I made it to like a point where you had like an animated arena, like a robot arena where you can walk around. But then that was really cool because like that was the first time you built like anything kind of like closer to like AI where you had the computer generate the solution itself, and seeing it do that based on like the metrics that you give it was really cool. Um, Definitely agree because like when you're working long hours, I had to stay up like 48 hours to get a video up for our team in London, and I work on Pacific time. This was when the fires just started happening, so my sky was orange. It was really like apocalyptic. Definitely understand that kind of crunch time mentality that you have. Thanks for sharing. Okay.
Yeah.
So having gone to classes at Folsom, right? Is there anything you would change about the way the computer science curriculum is taught, or like would you like it if CS was taught in a different way? Like, tell me what you think about like how CS is taught and what you think could be improved or removed.
Okay, so hmm, taking the pretty much most of the computer science classes at Folsom Lake College, I can say that they're not necessarily they're different. Is how I would describe them. Like compared to classes I've taken in high school and here at Berkeley, I would say the computer science classes at Folsom Lake College they're a little more basic with trying to teach you how to program. And I'll give you an example here at Berkeley. The beginner computer science class, it's not really like a class that teaches you how to program. We use Python, but it doesn't teach you Python. It kind of teaches you how to problem solve. All right, and it gives you Python as like tools to get you to solve the problems. But the main point of the class is to see if you can kind of figure out the pieces of the puzzle to try and get this function to work or to make like a class that fits in like these lines or something like that. And the way they teach it at Folsom Lake College is it's not bad at all. It's actually really nice, and I'm glad I took a lot of classes there. But it's a lot more different. It's more direct, which can be more beneficial for some people, or it could be a little more boring for some people. It completely depends on the person. But like the first few classes, they're just focused on C++ and like all the aspects of C++. And then it's on until you get done with like CISP 400. You can go into 401, which is Java, or 430, which is data structures. But it's much more linear and just teaching you the basics. While here it's more like problem solving.
Would you agree with the notion that if you learn like a language and you learn how it works logically, you can understand like pretty much any other language syntactically? Like having taken C++ as like my first programming language, when I tried to learn Java or like Python or JavaScript, like I really just found the syntax sheet and it took me 30 minutes to rework the statements from C++ into that language. So like I really like believe that you can just learn any programming language if you know one like really well. And I was wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, exactly. So I completely agree with you. I learned Java as my first programming language, and then when I tried learning C++ and Python, it was much easier. Even though, especially for like Python, and there's also a bunch of other languages that have way different syntax, but conceptually, they're usually all pretty similar. So if you learn one, you can pretty much, with a little bit of effort and time, learn the rest. And I guess that's another reason why I like the class system here at Berkeley is because they don't teach you one programming language. They teach you how to program, which is really cool in my opinion, because then you can take that knowledge and apply it and learn different languages depending on what you want to do.
I know, I totally agree. So I work as a tutor, like a CS tutor, and a lot of the times like people they don't really know how to approach a problem because they don't really understand that coding isn't just about like writing functions, right? It's more about like actually writing up and drawing out solutions and seeing how like classes and functions and variables will be passed. So they don't really see how to problem solve. So I get a whiteboard or I get like a sheet of paper and I draw out how it should look, and then they start to see logically how they could craft their statements. because like what I see them do is going on Stack Overflow, Reddit, online, just searching for things, and I don't think that what they're doing is really good. I think like what they need to do is stop and like understand how what they know works, because fundamentally some of them don't even know what a pointer is, how files work, right? They don't understand that, and most of the time it's just like nested if statements. So like I know if statements are like this primitive control structure, which a lot of people like really like because like it's really simple to understand. If this, then that, right? So, um, but what they don't understand is like that you can also check for a loop, but you don't have to write this if over and over and over again. You can use a for loop to do like to traverse an array and check for a condition, right? You can go through a for loop and then check if that condition applies for each element. You don't have to do that for every single element. I remember showing one person how to write a loop of just a basic for loop, and they were like, wow, this makes it so much more simple. And I'm like, yeah, this is why I like CS. It's like you're solving a problem that seems really complicated, but you're doing it in a very simple way. And sometimes the best solution is the most simple one. Josh, you have anything to add? You're muted, by the way.
Yeah. I would completely agree with that about learning how to program is more important than learning a language. Um, it transfers over, jumping from JavaScript to Java to Python. Sometimes you mess yourself up with syntax and you can't figure out what's going wrong, and then you're like, oh, I'm trying to program in Python when I'm in a JavaScript IDE or whatever. And you can mess yourself up, but those thinking skills really apply. And like one of the biggest things about internships uh, and this was huge for me is learning how to structure code so that it's maintainable. um, just learning how to solve the problem, because if you can write it out as pseudocode, writing it out as actual code is super easy. And every engineer works with the documentation with Stack Overflow. It's more about that abstract problem solving. So I would say you guys nailed it.
Awesome. Okay. So some people think of COBOL as a dead language, right? So some people understand that Latin is also a dead language. I took like a couple of philosophy courses, and it was always like reintroduced to us like where this came from. So I really like seeing like the history of the computers and like where we were. When I got mentored with my Intel mentor, he talked about x86 processors, which are like this old ancient Intel architecture system. So it's just like seeing like the history of where our field is and where we are now in terms of like academia and like the research really sees like how our languages have progressed, right? So I would say like to people who say like learning COBOL because it's a dead language, oh, it's not useful. Well, people are trying to make a dead system modern, right? So you're the only way you're going to be able to help this person or your client is by understanding a dead system. I'm sorry if you're wasting your time, if you think you're wasting your time learning a dead system, but like at the end of the day, the only way to make something better that's already existing is by understanding it. Now, it may be out of date, but how are you going to make it better if you don't understand how it works, right? Yeah, you can make the argument that you can rewrite it from scratch in Python, but if the work is already there, and like I said, if you know one programming language, how different is another programming language, right? It really is boils down to just logic, right? So by understanding how that system has been designed, you're taking the time to like understand like the work that 65 years of people have done into building a legacy system, and then like you can take that work that's already there and apply what you know coming in, right? Because you've been taught C++, Java, Python, like these modern infrastructure languages that can really go in and modernize these existing systems, right, for your clients. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I would say that makes perfect sense. I know that um, a lot of companies hesitate to upgrade their software because when you write new software in modern programming languages, you run a very high risk of introducing new bugs. And if you're a bank or any company that requires a lot of security or high levels of reliability, that's a huge threat to your business. So I know I've heard that. the salaries for COBOL programmers have skyrocketed for that very reason. And yeah, looking in the past and just seeing how you can improve upon things, that's definitely huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ojhan?
and to add on to that, like you said, I like the analogy. Like Latin is a dead language, but people still learn it anyways. And I was just thinking about it, and a lot of people say, "Yeah, well, why learn C when I could just learn Python?" Well, a lot of people still need to learn C. Well, that's because a lot of the basic functions in Python are actually written in C, which is what makes them so optimized and efficient. So if everyone just forgot about all the old languages, even though they're not used as much, then we wouldn't have all these like efficient ways to progress with our more modern languages.
Exactly, I totally agree. Like, oftentimes the argument comes for these languages because the syntax is much simpler, and then there's less like abstract thinking involved and critical thinking even to really apply oneself, understand it, because the language is so Pythonic, right? It's so simple, right? Because like you obviously have to go through a lot more steps to write the same function in C++ versus in Python, but I think learning those steps makes you a better problem solver, right? Because you understand like how things work, and you can also with C++ you can go into like bitwise manipulation and really understand at a very deep low level how things work, right? I think that's adding to like how extremely fine-tuned and efficient you can write your code. Um, so really by understanding these legacy old dead languages, I think you're really giving yourself an advantage. You're giving yourself an edge when you go out there and say, hey, I have a CS degree. I understand thoroughly how your system works from the low level embedded side up to a very high level abstraction. I think having the ability to convey that to your employer is probably a very good thing. And it shows you like you have a deep breadth of understanding, like a mastery of understanding that a lot of people don't have going out of college. And I think like going through experiences like this, like Master the Mainframe, even though like Master the Mainframe in my opinion sounds cheesy as heck, but it gives you the opportunity to like really understand a legacy system thoroughly and be able to apply yourself. In level 3, you have the ability to make a capstone project using what you already know. So you can make it in R, you can make it like in C++, you can make it in Swift even, you can make an iOS app that integrates with Zoe and pushes data sets from your phone to the cloud. There's like limitless possibilities to what you can do. There's total creative freedom. What you ultimately have to do is apply a skill that you know to refactor code that's already like written there and how you can manage a data set with existing backend technology, right? So I think like that's a really cool engineering challenge for people to solve.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And even to add on, I feel like a lot of students who are new to computer science, they feel a little overwhelmed with all this, abstraction that they haven't seen before, and then all of a sudden get introduced to. So I feel like if you're like a complete beginner or just starting out programming, I feel like it's okay to not know that abstraction at first, but don't just like put it off. Like I would say, get comfortable, maybe do a year or two. Years of experience with just programming in a high level language before like trying to go and learn the more lower level languages, or like how computers actually communicate in these low level languages.
Definitely, definitely. Josh, anything to add?
No, I think that that pretty much sums it up.
Okay, so just to recap, I've asked you like who you are, why you've chosen like the schools you are at, why you're majoring in CS, why you think CS is important, why and how you would describe CS, and also like how you feel about like how it's taught. Is there anything you would tell, like especially if you were to go back at Folsom Lake College, if you could time travel and pull yourself aside and give yourself like any feedback or any advice, would you tell yourself anything? Like the floor is yours.
Well, I mean, I would probably tell myself not to stress out so much about what I was doing. I know personally that I worked very hard and overworked myself in a lot of ways that almost completely burned me out. I was taking 17 and 18 unit semesters while working part-time and just had so much other stuff going on in my life that I didn't really get to enjoy. And one of the things that is most important for learning is actually enjoying the topic that you're learning. For instance, piano is something I absolutely love to do, and I was able to learn songs so quickly just because I was playing what I loved, and that was me teaching myself on my own. Whereas when I was actually doing piano lessons with my mom, I had to learn the songs that she told me to do, and I hated it, and I was just terrible at piano. So, really developing a passion for what you're doing will help you infinitely in what you're trying to learn. So, I would say don't stress yourself out whether or not you go to a brand name university or another university that might not be as reputable. If you enjoy what you're doing and you're good at it, you're going to end up in the same place. And if you don't stress yourself out and make yourself miserable, you'll find that you're a lot more creative and you'll probably be able to use your potential more.
Exactly. I totally agree with Josh because like I went to Palo Alto High School, which is like the school that's right next to Stanford University. So the students there are extremely ambitious. Everyone applied to like a top tier school. I moved to Sacramento because like the Bay Area got too expensive for my family. So coming here was like a breath of fresh air. Everyone was like more relaxed. There wasn't that very gunnery mentality of like trying to get into the best school possible. There wasn't like that elitism where if you were struggling with something, no one else will help you, right? There is that collaborative nature at Folsom College. I'm really grateful for that. Like I used to think like going to a community college was like a detriment to you. It's actually the best thing I've ever done, like is going to a community college because you get that one-on-one time with the professor that I don't think you have at Berkeley because everyone is super busy, right, Ojhan? But like at Folsom College, you have the opportunity to spend one-on-one time with the professor, really get to know them, and really make a meaningful impact on college. So what I'm doing now is like I've joined ASFLC. I'm like the vice commissioner of CAVE, so I get to hear from all the students. I get to participate in club fair and hear from like all the faculty and all the students how they're doing, how they're keeping themselves sane, and how they're engaging in like college events. Right? I know college events aren't something you really look forward to, especially on virtual things, but like as long as like they're there and they keep students engaged in like a common thing. For example, we have FLC plus, which you guys are a part of, and like astronomy club and eco club. It just gives people like a medium to like really interact and everything. So I really think like having a society of like community of nerds is really a good thing to start. I don't know like how you guys study. Some people like to be the loner in the background just studying, like constantly studying, and some people don't like that constant social interaction. But for me, what I find really beneficial is really engaging with a couple of people. Like of course study it yourself so you understand it yourself, but really go and engage it with like people who are studying at the same level as you are, and really throw back ideas because there may be gaps in your knowledge, and this is like the best way to identify those gaps. If you go up and really show people what you know, you'll see like those gaps yourself, right? So I think that's like a really good endpoint. It's interesting that you bring up the piano. I mean, like I was wondering if you would be free to do this next time. I mean, I mostly appreciate both of you for being here because I know you guys are really packed. But like, if you would like to do this again, would you mind like playing some background music on the piano in the background, and that oh, Jana and I can just be like, okay, we're making the mainframe
I think
stuff.
that's a great idea, Josh.
Yeah, I think
I can
I think
try.
that's
Right now I'm sitting in my car in front of Starbucks because my internet was out. But yeah, if my internet's not out, I might be able to pull something together for that.
oh yeah, he's really good. So we're gonna get some good new music in the
I'm a bit rusty now, but
back.
okay. So what are your favorite songs?
what are my favorite songs?
Hmm.
To play on the piano or just in general?
Just in general.
Oh, in general, it's hard for me to say just because one of the things like working as an intern is you can listen to music for like 8 hours a day. And for me, I was commuting 40 minutes in each direction to HP. So I was really getting like 9 hours per day of music, which I went through. I went through classical, which is no easy feat, jazz, rock, all that. So really, I love a pretty broad array of music. So I,
Like
I do like Claire de Lune though. That might
yeah,
make me
Credit is pretty good. Like I wouldn't expect you for credit. I mean, when I first met you, I thought you would be like more into indie or rock. Or like that's cool. Like
Yeah.
that's
Actually,
good.
I just thought of it. Liszt's transcription of Schubert Ave Maria
Oh,
on the piano. Valentina Lisitsa plays it, and that would be one of my favorites.
I played a lot of Bach and Wieniawski. So yeah, he's pretty good. When I was in high school, I had to do Chopin for like couple recitals. Yeah, awesome, awesome. So, Ojhan, are you a musical person too?
I played piano back in like middle school, like Josh said. I did like it, but I guess I think I went through the same thing where like I was being forced to play the songs, which I didn't like that part of. So I picked it up here and there. I play sometimes, but I'm not like a actual professional like you guys.
Oh no, I wouldn't call myself a professional. Josh is way better than I am. So like,
Yeah, that's why he's playing for us next
wait,
We'll see.
time.
wait, so I guess this wraps up our Q&A. I hope you guys join us for our live session where we go over Master the Mainframe and we all get to feed children because we're gonna spend as much of IBM's money as we can. Like we're gonna go in, we're gonna learn digital skills, we're gonna talk more about like digital literacy and how that's impacting students and changing people's lives. I serve as the person of interest on like ASFLC's board, and I get to communicate with our basic needs community. So I go around and understand like our most low income students and try to understand like their needs. And I think like having digital literacy and opportunities for them for job opportunities really good because like this is really handed to you on a silver platter. Our colleges have like worked with IBM before, and like now serving as IBM Z Ambassador, I'm able to facilitate that more so at Folsom Lake College by being your basic needs committee POI. So I want to be able to give our students these opportunities. And I was wondering if you guys would be willing to help me in the future by spreading this message and really engaging with our students. If you guys have time, I know you guys are extremely busy.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure both of us, Josh included, would love to help. Thank you so much for having us here for this Q&A. I hope it helped some people who are just new to Folsom Lake College, and it'll help your club out too, hopefully. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And yeah, to the people watching, just keep working hard. And even if it looks like things aren't going well in life, you just keep working, and you're gonna have discouraging moments. And I've had a million, but if you keep going, things will get better.
Yeah, totally
Yeah.
agree. Like as long as you keep yourself going, even if you have like you're failing a class, you can still turn that around. It's still early in the semester. As long as you learn it and you feel like you're moving forward, that's always a good thing. I mean, if it's definitely going bad for you, I would say maybe drop the class or withdraw. But like giving yourself that opportunity to learn and really engage. I mean, sometimes you have to be real with yourself, right? But like giving yourself that opportunity to really persevere and keep going and get help because there is help there out there for you if you need it. That's obviously a very good thing. Like I know CS is a very ambitious and very cutthroat environment sometimes, or it can be. It shouldn't be, in my opinion. I mean, it's not like that everywhere, but sometimes it is, right? You don't go out and seek help. You have this mentality of like, oh, I need to be better at things, and I have to like. No, it's not like that at all. You actually should collaborate and speak with your peers because like working stuff out and actually having teamwork is very important because like when you actually do work, it's obviously on teams. You're working in collaboration with people. You're not that lone programmer. And I think like establishing that now so you guys understand is actually very important.
Yeah.
Ojan, you have anything to say?
Yeah, no, that pretty much sums it up. Don't give up. Have fun while you're programming. That's the whole point of it. And always have a growth mindset. If you ever fail, don't think like this will happen constantly. Say you can grow from it. You'll do better next time, and you will succeed.
Yeah.
That's what got me, the path I am right now. So
So I know Josh said he started coding at 12 or 16, but like you don't need to be that precocious. I mean, if you're just getting in now, and I know like at a community college, you have like adult students who are a little bit older or even high schoolers, right? It's never too late to start learning. Honestly, I watched like, do you know what Great Big Story is? It's like this like inspirational kind of TED Talky kind of video club. I saw this like 86-year-old Japanese woman make video games, and it's bringing her joy. It's bringing her fulfillment. So I don't think like you will be too old to get into something. coding at the end of the day is all about creativity, like what you can make. And like the better you get at that, the more practice you get, the more you will understand and the more creative and applicable your skills will be towards problem solving. And I think that's a wrap. Thank you guys for joining so much for our Q&A. Tune in next time for a live session where we'll meet more of Ojhan and Josh. Hopefully Josh can play the piano for us and he isn't having internet problems. So that's it. You've been joined by Alexander, Ojhan, and Josh. Bye.
Thank you.